Oh God, Heather. R.I.P. Heather Monroe.
Look for that Packers pile driver.
Oh,
Heather! What in the world? Like a cat landing on her feet. Oh my gosh. Cracking off the suplex. Bad bitch Anoku! Heather Monroe hooking the legs of Andy Brown. There it is. My name's Heather Monroe and I'm from Des Moines, Iowa. You're welcome. I've always loved wrestling. When I started watching it when I was 11, and I would watch like during the Attitude Era when it was like Lita and Trish and all of those women that were like really a big part of all the stories there. I really connected with Lita. I watched it kind of off and on through high school and college. I got really into like Japanese wrestling and Shimmer and all the women's promotions. I moved out to LA about in 2012, and I was trying to live the LA dream of being an actress.
Yes, this is Hollywood. The city of the stars, the famous, the fabulous, the glamorous Hollywood.
Just kind of didn't feel like that was my thing. Like my hustle wasn't there. Wasn't very good at it. So I kind of was at a crossroads of like, what am I doing with my life? Living in LA, kind of doing nothing. And one day I turned on Total Divas.
Total Divas.
And I was like, oh yeah, I wanted to be a wrestler way back when I was young and in high school, and it's like always been something I wanted to do. And I was watching these ladies and I said, I could probably do that. So I found Santino Bros.
Don't quit, don't give up, and give it everything you have.
I was really nervous at first. I only paid for a private session, and then I was like, you know what, F it, and then I paid for the class in full, and I was like, okay, I'm in it now, gotta do it. The fact that they offered the private session made me feel like I could try it out and see if I would like it first, but yeah, I just kind of went balls to the wall after that. I did improv for a really long time when I was out here too. I trained at UCB and did some stuff at IO, and so I have a lot of that background that I think has for sure made me more confident in being in front of people, and I've never felt scared to do that part.
I thought that I would bring in 3 people to give gifts to, so, oh, you guys, you look poor, come here.
It's kind of with my improv stuff, I really like being like the sassy, she thinks she's better than everyone, but really like I love to look dumb.
What do you say, Kono? Please fight it. Come on. Get off here. You're trying to make Kono humble. He's standing. Now he's fighting.
Doing the Killer Bass stuff came with tagging with Laura James.
That's when you're supposed to applaud. Okay? Yeah.
She let me be silly with her in the ring, and then we kind of got to be stupid together, and people caught on to it and started enjoying it. And I got more confident because of that too, when I could be myself a little bit more with that kind of stuff. The athletic stuff, I danced for a really long time, but that's pretty much, I wasn't like in sports or anything like that. I watch it, but I was never involved in it.
Uh-oh.
So I think the theatrics and character stuff has always been my jam compared to look at these athletic things I can do. It's kind of like me amped up. I'm like very sarcastic and I talk shit all the time and I like make fun of people. That's like how I show love.
Whose child is this? I don't know. Whose child is this?
My parents obviously knew that when I told them, they were like, okay, but it wasn't news to them that I'd want to be a wrestler, because it was like, when I was young, it was like, that's gonna be my profession, I'm gonna be a wrestler. And my mom was like, no, you're not. But honestly, I've found so much success already doing wrestling that they love going to the shows whenever I'm in their town. They've like seen that I've been able to like make somewhat of a living off of wrestling, where in acting, I was like, not so much. So they're much happier that as long as I'm doing well.
Uh-oh. Oh, no. That's not what you want. Off the ropes.
name's Ruby Reyes. I'm from Santa Paula, California.
Everybody welcome to the ring. Here is Ruby.
First off, I am the equal opportunity ass kicker.
Ruby just waiting for her opportunity, taking her spot. And now, double team.
It's not just a title, it's who I am, and it's who I've always been. I was always taught to take no shit since I was a kid. My dad is very much a male chauvinist. He's very sexist, except for when it came to his daughter. And he taught me to always fight back and to always stand up for myself and to never, just don't take anything from anyone. Don't let anybody make you feel bad. It doesn't matter their gender, guy or girl. I've always had no issue fighting against anybody for what's right. It didn't matter if you were a guy or girl. Probably didn't even matter if you were a dog. if it wasn't, if you were offending me, if you were offending someone else, not just verbally, but if you were getting in there, I'm not going to take your shit. And if it comes down to fisticuffs, it comes down to fisticuffs. 2008, I first entered the wrestling business. I just had my 10-year marker in the wrestling business last June. I started off as a manager. I spent 5 years managing. Before June 2013, I transitioned when I decided to come to training at Santino Brothers at the exact same time that I started grad school at USC. I was at Battleground Pro wrestling show. Robbie Phoenix was there, and I wound up talking to Robbie Phoenix, who is one of the head trainers here. He assured me that if I came here, I wouldn't be treated as a girl, that I'd be treated as an equal, which is exactly what I was looking for. So maybe 3 months later, I came and I started doing privates with Joey Chaos. And in his words, he just needed to clean me up and send me out in the world. I lived close, so I could just literally drive down and come to classes anytime I want. It was basically all you could eat classes, and I took advantage of that. I was training with beginners, I was training with advanced, I was training with Los Luchas, anybody. A blessing to be able to come here and be able to learn from so many different people, so many different styles.
I usually don't like to bet on wrestling, but this one I'm pretty sure.
I've been wrestling since 2013. This year, 2019, I started running a show here at Santino Brothers called Up All Night, where it is a show for wrestlers, by wrestlers, and you can't come here unless you're a wrestler.
Yeah!
Everything is here already. We have the ring, we have the venue, we got the people, we got, production. What I did is basically come in, I pitched the idea for a show, I wrote it up, and they loved it because also it's something that Joey, Robbie, and Sylvia, the head people here, get to sit back and watch. It's a great feeling to see other people grow too and be able to run their own part of the show and handle their own part of the show. And I think this is beneficial to everybody because what happens after you're done wrestling? What happens if you can't wrestle? What happens if you get hurt? What if you still want to be in the business, but you can't physically do it? This shows people that you can still be in it, and it shows you and gives you an opportunity to learn the different parts and aspects of a show. So it's a lot, but I think it's something that's very beneficial. It's been beneficial to me. I get to see what a lot of the promoters do and the bookers do, so a lot more appreciative of what they do.
Hey guys, I'm Delilah Delilah Doom. I'm originally from Massachusetts, but now I'm here in sunny California where I hail from Richard Simmons Aerobic Academy.
From Santino, California, this is Delilah Doom!
So, Don, I'm going to spill some tea about Delilah Doom. You like that phrase, by the way, spill some tea?
I love that.
Oh, the kids
what does
are
it
saying.
mean?
Well, I'm going to give you some, I'm going to break it down for you.
She's very excitable.
When I was about 10 years old, I remember hanging out with a bunch of my friends, and they invited me over to watch wrestling. And I've never seen wrestling before. It wasn't something that was, in my family. But I was like, okay, cool. So they put it on, and I remember seeing Chyna. And right off the bat, right there, I was just hooked.
It's Chyna! Chyna! And that was a frying pan to the back of Jeff Jarrett's head!
The athleticism, the entertainment portion, I've always been into both like theater and sports growing up as a kid. So having a place where the two of them kind of blend, it just lit a passion in me. And from that age of 10, I told myself when I grew up I'm going to be a wrestler. And it took a little while, but here we are. And I am a professional wrestler now.
Hitting the ropes. This wrestling match has turned into a fight. Well, look at this. Crucifix setting off for Thunderbomb, 2, 3, and what a homecoming!
Here is your winner, Delilah Doom!
When I was 25, I drove to Texas with the plan of going back to college to get a second degree. I currently have a degree in nutrition, but I wanted a degree in American Sign Language. So I packed all my things, moved down to Texas with my cat, and my financial aid ended up falling through like the first month after applying for it. But when I got to Texas, the first week, a friend of mine was like, do you want to come to a wrestling show? There's a local show going on in Austin. And I was like, yes, I love wrestling. And mind you, I stopped watching wrestling for a while. So for someone to be like, hey, do you like wrestling? And I was like, yes, I haven't thought of wrestling in so long. Like, I would love to go to the show. So they brought me to the show, Anarchy Championship Wrestling in Austin, Texas. It happened to be their all-women's show, which I just took as a sign from the universe. My financial aid for school had just fallen through, and here I am at a wrestling show, something that I've wanted to do since I was 10, and it's an all-female show. So afterwards I talked to one of the wrestlers, a gentleman by Jojo Bravo, and I said, my name's Sarah, I want to be a wrestler, what do I have to do? And he introduced me to my first school that I started training at in Austin, AAPW, ran by George de la Isla. I trained with them for almost a year where my schedule ended up changing, and a friend of mine had actually introduced me to Funaki, who had a school in San Antonio, Texas. I went down there and I just fell in love with the training and the way, it fit me more. So for a year, I drove from Austin and San Antonio Monday through Saturday to train with Funaki. And so I trained with him for 4 years before I actually moved out to California. I met Eli Everfly. And after we got engaged, I ended up moving out here to California. And Santino's has opened their facility to me. They're like my new family. I am the adopted crazy cousin. I have had the opportunity to train with, Joey Chaos and Robbie Phoenix, Los Luchas, Sylvia. I have learned so much, and they have just been so awesome, and I am so grateful that they have, opened their school up to me and have accepted me as one of their own.
Doom perched on the second.
Too fast for Santos.
Oh, now it looks like she's... Oh! Crucifix driver right on the back of RJ Santos' neck, and she hits the rope, and it looks like she's going for a dive. Turn it! Oh my God! To the outside! Right Delilah Doom!
On the hard, unprotected floor!
So as Delilah Doom, I would say it's definitely an extension of myself. It's myself turned up times a lot. I always come out, like I just drank like 5 Red Bull and I'm like ready to fly. It really gets the kids going. I've actually had some, adults reach out to me, saying that my aerobics, has gotten them into fitness, and which is really cool. That's awesome. This is like one of the reasons why I do it. I get to be an inspiration. A gentleman once showed me, he got a tattoo of me. In the world today, it's nice to have someone who is positive and tries to get everybody up and smiling. And even if you find me annoying, I know deep down you're like, oh yeah, I feel it. Let's go, rad.
Delilah Doom, she said she was going to stair-step her all over Dom Kubrick. Get your steps in, girl. Get your steps in.
I'm Kathy Campanelli. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kathy Campanelli here. Please join me in welcoming a team that is as excited for Milestone as anyone here at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood.
When we did the manager training, it really covered a lot of different bases. It covered everything from being a manager who, you would accompany your wrestler to the ring, you would stand by ringside for them, be there to help, interfere in a match if it came to it,
I have decided to utilize my right as the human resources representative of this organization and fire Eli Everfly.
A lot of it helped from starting to kind of understand the psychology more of the match and realizing there's always a story that's being told, whether it's, the bigger tough person versus the little person that, that could, or someone that's super skillful versus someone that's more underhanded. It's how we're kind of there to tell the story and get the audience to believe what we want them to believe.
As the head of the Human Resources Department, I think it's only right I take this opportunity to formally introduce myself, this being part of your orientation.
For a lot of commentary, it's being there to explain, oh, well, what could be going through their mind right now? Well, let me tell you.
We've seen some very cunning, very evasive techniques from Vinny Wasco, able to keep himself out of harm's way, but the last time we saw him Up All Night, it was in a triple threat match.
Right.
It's way easier to be evasive and dodge things when you're in a multi-person match, but right now, he is staring down the barrel of the loaded gun that is Big Daddy.
The desperation, the drama that the wrestlers are telling in the ring, whether it's to a live crowd or on the DVD or on the live stream of the show, being a commentator, I'm there to kind of help extend that on behalf of the wrestlers.
Ralston, I'm doing so well. I am so excited to get these matches started tonight. We are going to have an incredible fourth installment of Up All Night right here in beautiful Bell Garden.
If you're in a live show, there's a certain electricity that you feel. You can see the sweat dripping. You can be really part of that scene. But for people that are watching it after the fact, we're there to kind of help them feel that at the same time, almost as strongly as if they were there.
From Avocado Heights, California, weighing in at 205 pounds, the last of a dying breed, Uptown Andy Brown.
I think for me, I found this really beautiful blend between choreography and theater and acting and drama and dance and violence.
By just every attempt being shot down by Jesse James. Oh! What? What? Hyde goes for the cover. 1, 2, 3. Oh, unbelievable. I thought we were seeing Hyde's first victory here at Up All Night.
Wrestling was something I didn't really explore until I was older, until I started really watching it after moving out to LA, watching it more than I ever had in the past, almost by accident. And then finding that Santino Bros was here and it was so accessible and it was right here for me to give it a whirl and see how it fit.
We are here to celebrate a historic night, to honor two incredible influences who have paved their legacy across Southern California through tacks and barbed wire and light tubes, through literal blood, sweat, and tears.
A lot of it, especially for commentary, I like to be kind of prepared with what the matches are. I want to do my research on the wrestlers that are involved. I want to be able to put them over and shine the best light on them that I can.
Kathy Campanelli here with Jamie Iovine, double platinum and double champion Royce Isaacs. Now, gentlemen, you all made quite a showing at Milestone, but are there big things on the horizon coming out of that blockbuster event?
A lot of the actuality of the commentary as it's happening is improv. A lot of things will just kind of come to you in the moment. I've been very lucky to have really great kind of partners on commentary for the shows that I've done. So being able to kind of vibe off of someone else's energy, it's kind of just like I'm watching the show with a friend and this is our take on things.
Let's not discount the fact that we had a great second match between Ray Romero Jr. and Captain Corona that, I mean, unfortunately, I think came to a bit of a brusque ending as Hoss Hogg and Jesse James interrupted, but I mean...
It sure came for an abrupt ending for Captain Corona, picking up his first loss as rookie debut.
I would love to continue doing commentary, backstage interviewing, ring announcing, just to kind of be there and be part of the story to help kind of support everything that all of these incredible athletes are doing.
Wait a minute. Wait, she's got Helen!
Hi, my name is Viva Van, aka Victoria Vaughn, and I'm from La Puente, California.
The hellbent vixen herself, Viva Van.
Now this is a debut.
I've always been a huge wrestling fan since I was a kid. I actually got into wrestling when the first PlayStation console came out and the first SmackDown game. My dad bought that for me, and I played that game every day. Undertaker was my favorite, been hooked on it ever since.
Now trying to mount some offense, clothesline after clothesline.
Looking to follow it up, perhaps Northern Lights suplex, beautiful bridge, center of the ring. Wow. Almost took her straight to Upset City.
It's just been in and out of my life. I would always watch it and I would always tell myself this is something I really want to do, but I would always be afraid to tell people because I was just so scared that people would laugh at me for it. You know, I was already being teased enough, you know. I grew up in La Puente, which is a Latino community, and I'm the only Asian there. So I was like, I didn't want another reason to be teased for. Throughout my whole life, I went through so many different phases in my life. I did car show modeling, I did death metal music for a while. I went back to school. My second year of college, I was majoring in accounting, and I thought to myself, is this something I really want to do for the rest of my life? I'm like, no. And I thought of wrestling, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna look up Los Angeles Pro Wrestling School. Santino Bros was the first school that popped up for me, and I started stalking their IG every day for a whole year, but I never had enough money to start training. And then literally, I remember the beginner's date was like June 18th, June 19th, around that time for 2017, and I thought, you know what, I really want to start this beginner's class, but I just don't have the funds for it. 3 days before that, I got in a car accident. Another car hit me from behind, and this guy didn't want to get any insurance involved. He just threw $1,000 at me, and I looked at my car, I'm like, you know what, the smudge will come right off. So I used that money, and I started my training. Training brought anxiety every day, but as soon as you pushed through the day, you just felt like you accomplished the world. I mean, the guys here, they definitely did not take it easy on any of the girls.
Come on, Viva!
Jake Atlas really like pushed me through.
Oh, boo! Come on, Viva!
They all really like treated us like we were just another opponent, not that we were female wrestlers. Heather helped me out with training a lot, and she pretty much took me under her wing, and as soon as it got closer to the date of my debut, she really helped me out and like, you know, showed me what it took to like get bookings, what we actually had to do for women.
Oh! I feel for you, Hyde. I've been in... There we go! Beautiful! Did you see the technical grace of Heather Monroe?
I mean, I started with 4 girls, but by the end of it, I was the only girl for a really long time in my class, which is typical. What I've always loved about Santino's is they made sure that as a woman I was treated equally to the men. They would get mad at my classmates if they didn't treat me the same. It's pretty obvious when a guy's scared to touch you or like hit you hard, but if we don't actually get that experience, then we're gonna get it outside in the world, we're not going to know how to deal with it. Being able to have that experience right when you're coming up, and the same for the dudes, they're going to learn how to work with a woman and they won't be scared or feel like, I think all of them are cool with intergender wrestling, and we all learn how to do it. We all learn like what our strengths and weaknesses are when it comes to that. They've always just treated us the same.
Squeeze his head off, Heather. Show me you squeeze his fucking head off. You get a long time in that headlock. Squeeze it off, squeeze it off. Show me you want to make him submit. Show me you want to make him submit.
After I started working, actually wrestling out on the circuit and everything, I would come in and just help kind of be the person that gets thrown around, helping teach the really basic stuff that I could help with at that point, because I'm still very new myself.
That goes for everybody. You guys have been taking stuff. Just because you're maybe like fresh in the match or whatever, you've taken stuff already, so act like it.
I remember the first class that I had didn't have any girls, but then there was a class that had a couple girls in it, and I took them aside on the first day and I said, you guys are gonna have to work harder than everybody else because no one expects you to make it, no one thinks you're gonna be able to handle it, but you guys have to work 10 times harder than any of those dudes because of that. Yeah! Oh, yeah! They just need someone to be like, hey, guess what? I did it, that girl did it, it can happen. Because before, I was only the third woman to come out of Santino's. Now we have 3 other girls that have debuted, plus a couple more that are still doing it, so I think it makes a difference.
Come on, Sarah. Come on, Sarah. Right, get it. Come on.
My name's Sarah, and I'm from Hampton, Virginia.
She is the Rose of the Devil's Garden, Sarah Wolf!
I loved wrestling ever since I was a little kid, but around the time I was hitting puberty is when wrestling got kind of weird, like the whole puppies thing was going on, and the commentators seemed to only ever talk about the women wrestlers as like objects. And it really started making me uncomfortable because it's that time in a kid's life where you already feel uncomfortable about everything. So I kind of stopped watching wrestling. I moved out to LA to work with video games. And at a big video game convention, I ran into a wrestler for the WWE. And we started talking and chit-chatting, and I realized that a lot of things had changed and that there were women now who could be wrestlers who didn't look like supermodels or huge, jacked, like 6 feet tall women. There were women wrestling who looked a little bit more like me. So I went home and I Googled wrestling schools and I found Santino Bros, but I wasn't ready to commit yet. And then that wrestler got me and my friends tickets to the show. We went to the show, and when we came out from my very first wrestling show ever, even though Eddie Guerrero rode my brother's lowrider into the ring, I didn't get to go to that one. So as an adult, it was my very first wrestling show, and we came back to the car, and there was a flyer for Santino Bros. And I was like, I'm gonna take that as fate, and I signed up. It doesn't make any sense, but China is my influence. Like, I'm only 5 feet tall, which is why I say it doesn't make any sense. But when I carry myself, when I walk around, like in my mind, I'm China or Luna Vachon. I am a big, strong woman, which is not the case, but you're gonna believe it. I actually originally became a manager because I thought I couldn't cut it as a wrestler. And so I loved wrestling so much, I said, well, I still want to be a part of this world. And so I went to manager training here at Santino Bros.
Gentlemen, you are about to witness the greatest wrestling show on earth. Sean De La Muerta is all the way from Mexico here to entertain you unworthy pigs.
I became a manager, and over time, being a manager actually made me more comfortable with wrestling as a whole. Managing had a really big influence on me because I got to walk out, so I got to get over that fear of stepping in front of the crowd and being in the ring. I got to sit under the learning tree of the wrestler that I managed, Tyler Bateman. He's been wrestling for 17 years. So I got to learn a lot, and it made wrestling more comfortable. And in fact, I think managing has made me a better wrestler. Whenever I'm in a tag team, I find that I understand a lot more than other wrestlers what my role is and how to get the crowd to react the way I want them to react.
and how to be my character and to be vocal. It's a lot easier when you've done it, in my opinion, as a manager first.
Also coming up at the Canyon Club in Agora Hills. Big clothesline there. Hold on, Sarah Wolf going for the victory.
Oh, wow. Santino Bros has a sign up in the ring. It says Santino Tough. That's not just a sign. That's an actual thing. That's a mindset. It's how everyone here functions.
Come on, Sarah, get out of it.
Oh, she's biting me!
That's the way to get out of it.
Santino Bros is not a school for everyone. It's a tough school. They want the wrestlers who come out of this school to be strong, not just physically, but mentally tough, to be able to deal with multiple situations. And training here, it got very, very hard for me. And I actually quit the first time. I also had like an injury that I think kind of dampened my spirits, but I eventually came back because I wanted it. The opportunity presented itself, and I did feel a lot more confident also from managing to go through it again. But it's tough. You're wrestling big guys, and they don't make exceptions for you, and they're not going to treat you any differently just because you're a girl. You're still going to have to wrestle all of the other students in the class, and a lot of times there are not a lot of girls in the class. This has actually been kind of, I think, one of the biggest number of girls who've made it as far as they have, like recently. So it's been really cool to train with more women.
All right, well, my name is Jenna. I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I'm currently residing in Huntington Beach, California.
From Venice Beach, California, Milo Matters!
I watched wrestling with my mom, actually. I was watching it since I was about 5. And then I was an avid wrestling fan up until about middle school. Like, I was playing the PlayStation games. I always wanted to go to the shows, but my mom could never afford it. I had like all the action figures. I had CDs from like entrance musics of the stars. And then I fell off after like middle school. And then I started picking it up again a few months before I started training, actually, because I remembered that I wanted to be a wrestler. So about 3 years ago, I moved to California, just working my serving job, and then I was just like, where's my life going? And then I came across wrestling again. I was like, I remember when I wanted to do this.
This is what I love about Milo Matters. You know, she comes in with the right kind of chip on her shoulder. Right? Look at that crowd. That crowd loves
Milo's
this.
off the ropes.
Oh!
Tope Suicida through the ropes.
That's the type of action we love here, and Milo Matters is bringing that heat.
I kind of went on Wikipedia and was like, how do you become a professional wrestler? And it said you gotta find an accredited wrestling school is one of the first steps. So I started Googling schools, and that's how I found Santino's. I would click on it, and then I'd be like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. And I would keep going on Google and looking. And then I'd be like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I don't know if I'm ready. And then I got into a car accident that was pretty bad and life-threatening. So then after that, I was just like, you know what? I healed from that, signed up for Santino Brothers, and I've been training since September of 2017. Yeah, it's great. It's like a good escape from the real world.
There you go.
Sal, all the way to the corner. Sal, all the way to the corner. Good job, man. Woo! Sal.
Nice sell.
There you go. There you go. Damn, go to that
Nice.
I have a lot of character work to work on and confidence, so got a little bit to go, but I'll get there.
Right here and right here. Break my eyes. Break. I'm gonna break my hands. Go up. No, up. Yep. And then rake. Okay. And when you're gonna rake it, it is. Shit. That is going to be the cut, right? Or the cut off, right? Okay.
It's coming with time, 100%. I was never I mean, I guess I was definitely a tomboy as a kid, and I definitely got tougher as I got older, but this has helped me become thick skin for sure, 100%.
Good night.
I think we're all definitely tight-knit here as the female wrestlers. I mean, it's all good vibes. They're all so sweet, very helping. They give the best advice, and I just think of us all as sisters, honestly.
Oh, open hand.
That was open hand.
Hey, come on, stay on the ropes, Simone.
Hello, my name is Simone Cherie and I'm from Queensland, Australia.
Santino Brothers Thunder from Down Under. The double S finesse. Simone Cherie.
My journey has been a long one. I found wrestling kind of later on in my life. I was a really big fan of wrestling growing up. I grew up around Muay Thai, which then eventually transitioned into boxing. So a lot of my life I was training in that space. I, kind of forgot about pro wrestling. I stopped watching it. I found it when I was 27, so a little bit later than what I would have liked. But I was actually in my boxing ring and I was training, and a guy was actually training with one of the other guys that I knew in the gym, and I kind of asked who he was and stuff, and introduced myself, and he actually used to do pro wrestling. And it kind of that night, I didn't really think of anything at that time. I was just like, oh, cool, awesome. I grew up with that. I used to watch it. It's really big in Australia. And then I went home that night and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. My mind was just like, oh my gosh. And I ended up just Googling a bunch of pro wrestling schools, and Santino's was the one with 5 stars. It had the most reviews. I just kind of went out on a limb and I just put myself down, scheduled myself down for a training day, and I came out here to start the course and didn't know what to expect. After we did a whole lot of cardio and some other stuff, some rolls and all that, and we jumped in the ring, and I was able to kind of feel myself in a pro wrestling ring for the first time ever in my entire life. And I knew in that moment that this is so what I want to do. This is what I'm meant to be doing. I've just finally kind of found my calling in life, and unfortunately it was a little bit later on, but I think it's the right time and the right path for me now. I've trained a lot, in terms of different types of sports and stuff. I grew up doing all different types of sports and competing, and the day that I came here to Santino's on the first day, I honestly was just, my mind was blown. It was one of the hardest things I had ever done. The training, the intensity, and not only that, but it's a mental thing as well. So you're putting your body through a lot of things that it hasn't really gone through before ever. And then, mentally it's really, really draining, and you really start to question yourself, should I be here? What am I doing? This is crazy.
I think you got it. Can you see where it's kind of swollen right there? Look at
I had never really put myself into a position where I was pushing myself to the absolute limit as much as I was throughout my training at Santino's. I was up at 5 a.m. every day. I was managing an all-female activewear brand. I would generally leave the office at about 6:30 p.m. and I'd jump in the car, I'd drive 2.5 hours to training, and then I would be here, for the night training. So for me, doing that 3 to 4 times a week and committing and always coming back, it was kind of towards the end of it, I just owed myself everything. Like I was so drained, but at the same time I was so energized because I was so inspired. I had never been as motivated as I was when I started training at Santino's.
Yeah! Whoa! Whoa! Oh! One more. Yeah!
Those who have been here and who have put in the work and who have gone through it all and grinded it out to the end, they know what that means. It's a feeling that's like deep inside, and it's something that we all hold very close.
They say we're all here for one thing, and that's to become professional wrestlers.
Again?
Oh. You see that on my shoot, Taylor? You see what
Control him more.
We do wrestle each other a lot, and we always like help each other network. Whenever there's like a booker that asks, oh, do you know another female wrestler? We always recommend our own sisters before other female wrestlers. I do wrestle men as well, and I treat it just like how I would wrestle another woman.
There's moves being made in wrestling that show that intergender wrestling is the future, and I think more people enjoy it than don't. And I think those people that don't enjoy it are going to end up having to just deal with it because it's happening everywhere, and more and more promotions are cool with it, and these women are coming up and these dudes are coming up that can put on killer intergender wrestling matches.
Delilah catching her with the knees. She turns around to Eli Everfly. What elevation!
2018 SoCal Tag Team Wrestlers of the Year. The championship went to Eli and myself. And this is actually the first time that a female has ever won, this award. And because I also won the Women's Wrestler Award for SoCal, I am the first time woman that has won 2 awards in the same year, for the same year. So it's been amazing. Tagging with Eli has been amazing, and I know I'm kind of biased, but he definitely has pushed me and has helped shape me and mold me into the better wrestler that I am today. I'm very proud of that award.
Both members of Worldwide Underground are now outside the ring.
You gotta know that this isn't smart.
There goes Delilah Doom!
I love intergender wrestling. It's I love being in an intergender tag team. It's one of my favorite things.
So an interesting thing about intergender wrestling that people don't ever bring up is that was the first women's wrestling. Back in the 50s, the very first women to wrestled men. And Mildred Burke wrestled men. That means she literally picked men up and threw them whether they wanted it or not. So intergender wrestling, it feels very natural to most of us women wrestlers because we are usually trained with guys. I think that wrestling has something for everyone. If you like comedy, there's comedy wrestling shows. If you like very serious mat wrestling, there's that. If you just want to see people fly all over the place, there's that. So I think that multiple types of wrestling and multiple types of companies and women's divisions, tag divisions, intergender tag divisions, intergender divisions, I think all of that is great because the more different types of wrestling that's available, the more fans will come to wrestling.
There's opportunities for everything. I don't like to say that, the future is for women or the future is for intergender wrestling. I like to think the future is for everything and everyone.
We're all wrestlers. We're all here to do our job, to wrestle.
Being able to find a sport and something like pro wrestling where I'm able to have that aggressive side as well as being able to, have that performance side with it and being able to feel all of the emotions that comes with pro wrestling, it's the coolest feeling ever in the world.
When I sit down and write down all the things I've accomplished, it's awesome because I never thought I would be here today. Woo! Okay, sorry, a little teary there. One of my goals as a wrestler was to make a living wrestling, and I have done that. So, the sky's the limit. Who knows what's going to happen with myself as, as a singles wrestler or as Doomfly as a tag team. But, hopefully we're shooting for the stars, baby.
It was amazing how well it fit into place in my life. Like, I started training and I just started feeling better about my life. And then as soon as I was done training, I was going on a tour and I like got all these opportunities right off the bat. And it's so consistent for me that I know it was the right decision. We did a month in Europe and then into Australia, New Zealand. I've wrestled in China as well.
Out of the frying pan into the fire. She was in that body scissor, still is, but the strikes as well by Heather Monroe.
It's ridiculous the opportunities I got as soon as I fell into wrestling.
Yeah, I think that as just more opportunities are coming up, we can all kind of have a piece of the pie a little bit, you know?
What I would love to do is run a big event, a big wrestling event, with sponsors, with vendors, with booths, something big for people to come to. And I want it to promote female wrestling. I want it to promote intergender wrestling. I just want to have fun.
Let me leave you with the words from Drake Younger that he said to us while we were at training one time. It's always a good day for wrestling, brother. You keep smiling, I'll keep smiling right back at you. So let's bring it in. Santino's on 3. 1, 2, 3. Santino!